This is shaping up to be one of the hotly contested Premier League title races in recent seasons. 4 teams are geared up and look likely to be there up until the very end. But with the Faulty Towers over at the PGMO and Basil Faulty in charge, you never know. There isn't a capless Miguel, but there is a frustrated Mikel. This is us at One Click from Glory, and we're going to talk about the latest round of games involving our clubs. I'm joined as always by Craig and Matthew. And we're going to start off with the game between Chelsea and Everton. A very disappointing result for Chelsea after a good run of results in recent times. Matthew, take us through your thoughts on the match.
It was started off with a bit of a dud in the first half, like nothing much going either way. You got two clubs who got a point to prove with, Everton and their point deduction. Chelsea looking to recover a little bit of form after the poor result against Manchester United. And, first half, fairly kind of even, nothing. We actually, you know what? We do what we normally do in the first half of games. We're knocking on that woodwork. We're testing the keeper. We're doing everything we can to kind of nullify the other team and start off strong. And we know it worked because the very next half, they scored. In fact, Decore scored. And I wish I was someone recorded me saying this, because I said before the game, I'm worried about this guy, Decore, because he plays so far up front. He's big, he's strong, set piece, it's going to be a thing. He didn't score a set piece, but he scored nonetheless. And I knew he would. And there was just no kind of coming back from that. No matter what, Pochettino threw on with Jackson off the bench, Mudryk, I don't know what he's doing. He's kind of fallen off a cliff ever since that real good performance against Man City. Even Cole Palmer, no matter how hard he's trying, can't get nowhere. That the thought of imagine likes of Sterling coming off the bench and having no impact on the game whatsoever. So much the fact that they go ahead and score again. I think it was one of the youngsters or something. But it's just the fact that they were saying that this was a marginally better performance than the one against Man United says a lot of how we're just in so much of the mud at the moment. Two really poor results. And if you were asking me where this goes next, I really don't know. Obviously, commiserations to Sanchez. I hope he's all right after his injury, comes back stronger. We've got this new guy coming in to see what he can do. But I'm just, as you can probably tell by the demeanour I have right now, I don't have much good to say about what's going on in this club. It's familiar. It's not familiar territory, but it's I'm not kind of. It's still hard to get used to after not to sound big-headed, but the times of winning and competing and being in the hunt for trophies and things like that. We're nowhere near that anymore, because no matter what kind of fold we have and team to play, it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. And he's running out of patience. He's running out of ideas. We're getting problems off the pitch. Jackson had a little scuffle with it at the end of the game. Back-to-back red cards. Reece James is injured again. Our captain not being there. It's just multiple problems coming from so many places, and it's just affecting us on the pitch so badly. And, this is another comedy of errors. It's so frustrating. So frustrating.
I guess looking at it, Craig, from a neutral perspective, where do you think things have gone wrong, in this game for Chelsea in particular?
Well, they're very inconsistent. This season, there's obviously they bought a lot of new players in, and it's taken them time to bed in. And I think the problem is that he hasn't found his best 11. And when his best 11 is fit, someone's always injured or suspended. So there's a lack of discipline and a lack of just a lack of consistency. And I feel as I said to Matthew a couple of weeks ago, I feel with Chelsea now, you're in a transitional period where it's a new team, young team. Some games you're gonna win, some games you're gonna lose. It's it's gonna be up and down. Some players are doing well, some players are not doing well. And the amount of money you spent on players in the summer, especially in midfield, they need to be doing better. You guys need to be doing better. For all that money you spent, Enzo, you paid all that money for him. Mudryk, you paid all that money for him. Kai Havertz, you paid all that money for him. Lavia, you paid all that money for him. Hardly starts, he's injured. Still doesn't play the game yet. Yeah. Nkunku hasn't started the game yet. He's still injured or on the way to recovery. So it's you spent a lot of money on players, but did you buy the right players in the summer? That's the question you should be asking now. Because I heard Pochettino saying that he might want more money in January to buy more players again. So if he wants to do that, he might have to sell to buy now, because he's spent a lot of money, sold a lot of players as well, but it's still not the team that he wants. So the question I have to ask is the players he bought in the summer, are they his players or the owner's players?
I think it's a combination of a little bit of both. I think what has happened, as I said this before with Bowley, is that he's invested in potential. He's invested in potential in the future, what can be proven good. So two ways it's going to go. It's going to be either good on the pitch or it's going to be good for business. So even though we pay a lot, like, for example, say like Palmer could be a good investment for business in the future. He's still young. He's come off a title-winning team only about a few months ago. He's still very young. He's 20. He's barely got into the England squad. Give it couple of years time, his value goes up. That English tax always goes up from his other clubs. Someone might put in a bid for him. So he, as much as I like what he does on the pitch, there's no getting away from the fact that he could be investment of business. Whereas someone like, you say, I don't know, possibly Nkunku would be possibly more an investment to success on the pitch. We saw what he was like for the few games in the pre-season. Like, he was absolutely electric, and we literally lost him at the wrong time just before the season started. Obviously, he's barely made the bench for any game so far this season. But it's like he's going in two different directions. But unfortunately, that doesn't. They're two different priorities. And with a manager who's just come in who's meant to be good with young players, he still hasn't found the rhythm. We had the squad. We said last week. The squad now from 2 years ago, only two players remain. One of them is Reece James. The other one is Thiago Silva. And you can argue Thiago Silva will probably be one of the first ones to go because of his age. So he ended up with only one player from that team of 2 years ago that won the Champions League. That's a crazy transition. And normally, you over time, if you're all experienced players, you kind of phase them out slowly, allow the youth to come in, but they learn from the more experienced players about what's meant at the club and what's expected from the club more than anything, because the more experienced ones did at least experience the winning culture at Chelsea at some point, whether it's for Premier Leagues or Champions Leagues or FA Cups or whatever. This is an entirely brand new team. We've replaced everyone with youngsters, and even the most senior player, who is Thiago Silva, has only been there for two or 3 years. Gone to the likes of Cahill, gone to the likes of Aspilicueta, two of our former captains who were there for a long, long time. Apart from maybe staff higher up, in back boardroom level or something like that. What impact can they have? They don't play. They're not playing. There's no one really there with the maturity and the experience who knows of what it is to play for Chelsea and be at Chelsea, to tell these players that this standard is not good enough. It's all well and good someone like Drogba saying he doesn't recognise this Chelsea. He don't play there anymore. And as much as you don't want to look back to the past all the time, but what you can do is remind people of what we're about, so that in the future they carry that forward. These players, as good as they are and as much potential they have and what they're there for, it hasn't been recognised. We lost 18 games in the calendar year of 2023. 18 games we've lost in the league. Puts it into perspective. It was nearly 20 years ago we were conceding 15 in the whole Premier League season. So how do we transition that kind of standard to a young squad where we don't have any senior players left? How do we do that?
I mean, you have got senior players left right now. You've got Sterling, you've got Thiago Silva, you could argue Conor Gallagher, but obviously he's young. Reece James, your captain, senior player. You've got Cucurella. You've got experienced players in your team.
We've got experienced players, but are they experienced Chelsea players? Granted, someone like Sterling is an experienced player who knows how to win from the Man City side of things. Unfortunately, he hasn't been able to kind of pull some of that mentality and pull some of, not necessarily training, but that will to go on and do more. He hasn't necessarily pulled that over since he's been there. And I can't be putting that all on him. He's one of the few who should be understanding what it is, like him, Silva and James and Mudryk. I think I said Gallagher. Those five at least, I'm looking at those to be you need to be pulling something out of his bag to drag this club. Because a lot of these youngers who've come in, they're still fresh, they're still wet behind the ears. They need to know what it means to be at this. As much as you pay for them, they're still quite naive and young in that respect.
I wouldn't have Mudryk in that list because, he didn't play a lot of top flight football before you signed him anyway. And I think to put him in that category as one of the ones that would understand what it means to be a Chelsea player and lead, no. I think he should be one of your key influential players, but I don't put that in the same category.
He was more like an arm around kind of guys. He was like my gamble in a way. Like I thought Poch could come around, put the hand around and be like, you're going to be like my focus. Because I think a lot of this stuff can come from you and it should come from you. And we know that to be good, we know that to be somewhat true because it has worked in the past. Games like, especially like with Fulham and Arsenal, we pulled off some moments of madness. So it's all in there. The trouble is that how often is he able to do that? We've got a whole squad worth of players that haven't even featured. So as much as you're going to be his special guy, he's all got other players that he's got to focus on. So there are so many questions. There are more questions than answers at the moment from this club. And we're just going to have to take every single game as it comes. We are a mid-table team.
You've been a mid-table team for the past couple of seasons, so that's of no surprise to any of us. But with the match, obviously, there's two clubs involved. Obviously, with Chelsea, it's been problems since Lampard was in charge the first time, and it's kind of not really resolved itself since then. Some things got better under Tuchel, and then under Potter, all unravelled, and then under Poch, it's a process. It's going to take a while. But Everton had a harsh handed to them with their points deduction, but have... Just to me, I have to say I'm super impressed with the attitude, the application, and just the performances of Everton since that ban was confirmed. And it's almost like they've put two fingers up to the league to say, you know what, forget you lot. We are going to not only stay up, but we're going to do something fun this year. So, Craig, how impressed are you with Everton as a football club in how they've responded to this ban? And does there need to be a big conversation around Sean Dyche and how he's ranked in the Premier League itself? Let's start with your views on Everton as a club.
I think Everton have done superbly well with a 10-point deduction. They've won all their games since the deduction had happened. And even games where you thought they would have lost, they've won. Everyone thought they would have lost against Newcastle at home, they beat them. Everyone thought they would lose against Chelsea at home, they beat them. So one thing about Everton, they've got resilience, they've got that grit about them. It reminds me of old school Burnley under Sean Dyche, where the odds are against them. Like, I remember when Burnley went to Chelsea a couple of years ago now when Mourinho was manager. I think Chelsea won the league the season before, and they came to the ground and they beat them. I think Finn got sent off in that game. I think Thibaut Courtois got sent off in that game, and then I think Begovic was your player at the time as well. He came in, and I think
this is when everything started going wrong, isn't it?
Yeah, I remember. And then I think Burnley won that game, and I remember the game, and I was like, wow, this manager, he knows what he's doing. He wasn't given a lot of money at Burnley to spend, but he was able to make an average player good, if you know what I mean. No disrespect to the player, but he knew how to get the chink of the armour and how to get the player playing the way he wanted him to play and to the system. At Everton now, what he's done at Everton, he's got a good structure. He's got England #1 goalkeeper in goal, Pickford. His centre backs is always going to be. He's got Braithwaite, who's a young player. He looks quite good. He's got Tarkowski, and he's got the right back is sometimes Ashley Young or the captain Seamus Coleman, and left back he's got Patterson, or he plays
Mikalenko.
And he's got a good midfield. He plays Onana, or he plays
Got just a gay James Garner, Jack Harrison, Dwight McNeil.
So he's got that Dwight McNeil from the Burnley days,
players, isn't it?
And he's got Ashley Young as well, seasoned pro. He's been around for a long time, a bit like Thiago Silva in age-wise, but still going strong. He's got Calvert-Lewin, who a couple of years ago who was scoring goals for fun in the Premier League. I mean, the only issue with him is he's been injured a lot. I think he's a very good player, Premier League player. He scored a lot of goals. He's got him firing. They brought in a guy called Beto in the summer. He looks a bit raw, but he looks like he could score goals in this league as well once he gets used to the league. Maybe a little baby Drogba, you say about him. He's very strong, physical. He'll become good. So they've got a good starting 11 and one or two good players on the bench that they can bring on. So I think Everton have done a great job. And shout out to Sean Dyche as well. He's done a great job at Everton because last season they were near the relegation zone. They almost got relegated last season, and was able to pull them out of the rabbit of the hole in that system in that time, and he did well. This season, they started struggled a little bit. Then they got the point deduction. Then they started to get on form. They won a couple of games here and there, and now they're out of the relegation zone. So I think Everton, if they continue with this trajectory and do well this season, I can see them finishing the top half of the table.
I know it's very, very early days.
Yeah.
And usually managers don't get rewarded for that by the end of the season. But if Sean Dyche is able to keep Everton in the Premier League,
Yeah.
and they manage to end up finishing in the top 10,
Yeah.
let's say they manage to end up about 9th, do you think he should be in with a strong shout of manager of the season?
100%. Because he took a team that was deducted 10 points. That's a lot, massive.
Relegation
and in a relegation threat, and he got other rival teams as well in the relegation zone above them at the time. And him to get them out of the relegation zone, and if he finishes higher up, then I think he deserves to win. Because not every manager in the Premier League can do what he did. Let's be real. Not a lot of managers in the Premier League. A lot of managers would have crumbled, that either would have quit or the players would have down tools. I said, you know what, we're going to get relegated anyway.
And even before then, they were still winning. So
Yeah.
when the point deduction came in, they were in a much better position.
So I feel like if he gets him to gets him to top half of the table this season after what they've been through, he deserves manager of the year. He'll get my vote as manager of the year. I wouldn't give it to any other manager if he does that, because that's a miracle what he's done and what he's continued to do. So all the best to Everton this season.
Yeah, they've definitely been one of the teams to watch, and they've carried on from, I guess the delight of surviving last season. They've definitely done a good job of pushing on and making sure that they can kind of pick up these key points and doing what needs to be done with their performances. I guess one thing on that note, Matthew, obviously we've seen that Doucouré and Calvert-Lewin are playing close together, almost like a old-fashioned front two, Doucouré playing off Calvert-Lewin. How important do you think it is that their goals for Everton this season, because we did say before, I did challenge them as the players that need to kind of perform a lot and keep delivering, and Doucouré, and they've both stood up to that so far, but how important do you think their goals and performances are going to be in keeping Everton in this league?
Vital. It's because they are Sean Dyche-like players. They're big, they're tall, they're strong, they're imposing, and they're not going to score a lot of goals, but they're going to score enough goals where they're going to be deemed like safe, and that's, it's kind of part of what he wants his Everton to be. You don't, for all what we might laugh at Burnley for and what he did at Burnley, he got relegated, but he also brought them back and they also survived. But he made Turf Moor a very hard place to go. And you must say that so far, with players like those two, he's made Goodison Park a hard place to go to as well, because they're going to be absolutely in the thick of it. And even if one's out, you've got the other one to deal with anyway. So it doesn't really matter who you go up against. They're always going to be some kind of like real nightmare. I mean, the transition from Doucouré from where he is now it's quite a unique one, because you wouldn't look at it and normally think of him being a striker, but he gets himself. He's got that lovely kind of like old school hold up play, which I think a lot of other teams have neglected. They've moved on to a more, Pep style play of football. But one thing you get with Dyche is that he sticks with what he knows, and the fact that it has worked for so long. So, and they're the perfect two players to do it with. Absolutely the perfect two players. Plus with Calvert-Lewin, if he's able to stay fit, he's still got years on his side. He's still got so much to prove. No one hangs in the air longer than he does. Like, nobody. Like, he's perfect for crosses again, which is something that he loves. And with someone like Doucouré, just hit that absolute iron hunger for goal, coming from midfield. Again, someone that Sean Dyche loves. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Lampard sometimes, in the way he just goes for goal, and you don't expect him to get the amount of goals that he does. So they hate to say it, but they, especially Doucouré, especially him, is a player. I see kind of player that I like. Just run-ins, not beautiful, but just effective. So effective, the pair of them. So credit where credit is due, really.
Yeah, and it's going well, and long may it continue for them. We move over to Birmingham and the Emery derby at Villa Park. Zune had his claret and blues ready for a big game against a club that decided that he wasn't good enough. And it was a good evening for Unai Emery as they beat Arsenal 1-0 at home. Craig, there was so much to talk about in this game. We could talk about the referee. We could talk about the missed chances. We could talk about the Spider-Man-like or Superman-like X-ray vision of the referee to give the handball in the equaliser by Kai Havertz. But when you think about a game like this, knowing how Aston Villa play, and they play a very high line, very open, understanding the context of Unai Emery kind of against his old club and how much he, every time we've played against him, he's always been trying to get one over us. What's your thoughts on Arsenal's play in the match with those things in mind?
We don't move the ball quick enough in matches. Well, first when we play against hard teams, like they always seem to be able to break us down very easily. Like what Bailey did against Shevchenko. Shevchenko just needs to stay at left back. If you know you're playing against a good team with a pacey winger, just stay at left back. Don't be going inverted into midfield and all that nonsense in the first. Give it first 10, 15 minutes. The manager always saying when I play football, first 10, 15 minutes, a silence for opponent, watch what they're going to do, and then you see how they're going to play the first 10, 15 minutes, how they're going to play the game. And then once you know how they're going to play, then you execute what you need to do and then go and do your work and get the goals and win the game. What we did on Saturday is we let Shevchenko was going into midfield, leaving Gabriel and Saliba and Ben White ice like that. So you have to be very smart, and I thought that they were smart. Aston Villa was smart. They knew that Shevchenko was the weakness and they exploited it. So they had Bailey running at him. Bailey played the ball to McGinn. McGinn scores the goal, and then after that we're playing catch up. And I feel that sometimes in matches, like when we're too predictable as well, like you got Saka on one wing, you got Martinelli on one wing. Sometimes what we should do is just try and switch it up. If it's not working, put Martinelli on the right, put Saka on the left, give them something, try something different, see if we can penetrate them in different ways. Not always you play right wing, you play left wing. You have to change it up a bit. And I think as well, we need to know, like what we did the other day in the Champions League game when we beat Lens, like we battered them. I haven't seen that in the Premier League yet. Only one game against Sheffield United when we got 5 goals. We need to kill teams off early. If you can kill teams off before half time, then and in the second half you can make a couple of changes. You can rest your Saka, you can rest your Martinelli, you can rest your Jesus for another game, because I know we've got a lot of games in Christmas, so players are going to be tired and fatigued. That happens, but we have got a squad. It's a squad game. It's not about 11 players starting every single game. Some games you might have to say, you know what, Saka, I'm going to rest you for this game. You know what, Jesus, I'm going to rest you for this game. You know what, Martinelli, I'm going to rest you for this game. I'm going to try and give other players a chance to prove themselves. But we continue playing the same. Since last season, we played the same teams, same starting 11, and teams worked out how we play. So we're easy to play against because teams know, they're going to play Saka today, we're going to play Martinelli today, we're going to play Jesus today. They know the starting 11. So we need to be more, give them something to think about, kind of thing. Think, this guy, I never like give Reece Nelson a start, for example, or give who else on the bench. You got like Trossard. I think every time Trossard plays well for us, he has a good game. He has 2 or 3 good games. Then he gets dropped again.
Bench, yeah.
Then, like he finds it difficult to come off the bench and have a rhythm, the impact off the bench. So I think he's losing his confidence must be low every time. He must think to himself like, I'll play every game, and then I'll play well, I'll score a goal, get an assist, and then next game I'm back on the bench again. So I think Arteta needs to kind of work on, you know what, maybe I should play him more often and see what we can get out of him.
Yeah, I think squad utilisation has been a big challenge for the manager from the very beginning. It's one of the things that I think he's a lot better at this season, because there has been games this year when he has played Trossard over Jesus, or he has played Nketiah. So he has rotated it at times. He has been games he's put in Trossard over Martinelli. I think Fabio Vieira got a lot of starts as well earlier in the season. Then obviously after that red card, he's kind of been used less. I think he's had a slight muscle injury as well. Yeah, so
I think he had surgery on his injury.
Yeah, so
injured, yeah.
I think rotation is definitely something that he needs to do more of. One thing I will say though is that when you look at our games in the Champions League compared to the Premier League, the big difference is how teams defend against us. In a Premier League, we don't have much space to move the ball. We play against low blocks every week. In the Champions League, teams still think they can give us a game. You can't, but keep trying anyway. So it's a different proposition that we have to face. So I don't think it's right to say that why can't we do what we do in the Champions League in the Premier League. The one thing I would say is, why is it that what worked really well last season, elements of it we've not brought back? We don't start games fast anymore. We don't get goals in the first 10, 15 minutes in matches, which is we did a lot last season, which we need to bring back. We don't move the ball. You're right about speed of passing. It's not fast enough. At times it's too pedestrian. I think one of the things that frustrated me yesterday was the amount of runs Havertz was making into space, because Villa played a backline as high can be. They have Pau Torres at the back, very good defender, but the guy is slow. I'm talking Mertesacker slow. And yet we just didn't get the weight of pass right. We'd overcook it. We'd rush it. It's like the space is there. Havertz made so many runs. I think there was a point in the game when he must have pulled Odegaard and said, "Look, I'm making that run. Give me the ball." And when the ball finally came, the ball went in the back of the net, but it was given off as a handball. Correct decision, but we'll get into that in a bit. On that note, just on the note of Arsenal's performances and like trying to find that rhythm, I'm really happy with what Havertz is doing. I think he's been having a good run of games. I think last match was a brilliant game from against Luton, and we need to see more of it. But in general, what do you think Arsenal need to kind of really improve upon now, Matthew, to sort of not just maintain being in that contention for the top positions, but really trying to get a grip on games a lot sooner?
That more to your opponent. There's going to be times where you can do the methodical approach, bottom mid, slightly higher mid-table team. You can do that against a team like Villa. You might need to revisit what you did last year, and just because I think you did that with them last year, and you took them to the sword very, very quickly. You know, best teams don't just have multiple squads; they also have multiple ways of playing. And if there's one thing that you have, is a squad to go ahead and get games done real quick. You know, it's amazing as how, like, you know, with the talents of Saka, Martinelli, and Jesus, and Odegaard and Havertz, you got speed, you got technical ability, you got players who know how to find the goal. And with a team like Villa, who are on scintillating form right now, came off a very good win against Man City last week. They haven't really lost a game since that game against Forest. They've really found their focus, quietly getting into the top four somehow, and only 2 points off the top. Whether they're going to be there at the end of the season, at the moment right now, they're not getting there by accident. They're getting there because they're good. And you need to, and it's adapting to that and just killing. Remember what Newcastle did to Spurs last year was 6-1. I'm not saying you got to put 6-1, but you got to have the intent of, like, we're finding this goal very quick. None of this play around business, methodical kind of thing, because it doesn't always work. Find that goal as quick as you dare, because, you know, harder games will come. You got Liverpool coming up at some point. You're going to have the congested, like, kind of Christmas period. So adapt more to your opponent. You know, swap in. Like, in, out. After the Champions League is done, there's no Champions League until, February? Bar, like, say, the FA Cup games. So in all that time, you have got nothing but domestic football, like, in your way, where you're able to kind of exploit your opponent just that little bit more. Like you said, you know, space in the Premier League is a luxury. It doesn't happen very often. So make most of the space that you have with the players that you've got, you know. Go quick. I think it'll be a good thing for Arteta to be like, you know what? Let's have some fun. Let's show him something. Let's give him something really, like Craig said. Just give him something to think about. Don't give him the Arsenal that's gotten to the point where it's still all right. We're second, but in terms of, you know, competitiveness, we're still very much in there. It just takes a slip from another club and they're back on top. But let's go out there and show them, like, we are going to do what we need to do to come at the top by the end of May. So just adapt more sometimes to your opponent. Who do you play next after
Brighton?
See, the more methodical approach can work to Brighton, because they're kind of out of sorts at the moment. They're winning, they're losing or they're drawing. Villa didn't work. So come back again against Brighton, and next time you play a big team like a Liverpool, go for it. Like, you know, what have you got to? I don't know, say what you got to lose, but just give them something to think about. Yeah,
Definitely needs to be a change of approach. One last thing, I not one last thing. We've got a couple things more to talk about. But the finishing from the players, I think Odegaard had a couple of chances in the first half, in the game, where last season he would have scored them, although he did miss some like that last season. But how important, Craig, is it for our players to, as you say as well, Matthew, finish their dinner when the opportunity is presented to them? Because if Odegaard had scored at least one of those chances he had, we would have most likely gone on to win the game.
I feel that, like, we need to be more ruthless in front of goal. Like, I know everyone's saying that we need another centre mid. I think we need another centre forward, because as soon as when Jesus got taken off, he didn't look happy coming off. Ketia came off, he didn't do anything, just came off the pitch. So I think we're lacking that fear factor. Arsenal always had a fear factor on strikers over the decades and years, we've always had strikers. You had Ian Wright, you had Bergkamp, you had Henry, you had Kanu. You could have Kanu on the bench and he'll come on the bench and make an impact. You had Sylvan Waltord as well, who could come off the bench back in the day and score goals. We always had strikers who could make impact off the bench or even start. So I think over the last couple of seasons, we haven't really, since we've got rid of Aubameyang and Lacazette, we haven't really replaced them with elite strikers who can score goals out of anything. So that's where I think we've got all the ingredients as a team, but I think we're missing a focal player that can score 30 goals a season. If you have a striker who can score 30 goals a season, you most likely will challenge for the big honours. You'll win the title. Yeah, Eric Haaland. You just need that number. You need that number 9 who can just put the ball in the back of the net. And if you have that guy who can do that, even in the hard games, then you're most likely going to be challenging and winning Premier Leagues.
I agree that the goal scorer is important, but I think you can't take away what our team and how our team functions with Jesus up front. Like when we've had Nketiah playing through the middle at times, we struggle a lot because we don't have someone that facilitates the same way Jesus does. And Nketiah's come on leaps and bounds over the last couple of seasons, but there's a clear difference in levels. That's why when we played Trossard through the middle for parts of last season and parts of this season, there was much more fluency with the team. Martinelli looks like he came alive again, finally scoring boots. Saka can play with anyone, but he looked more dangerous when Trossard was there and when Jesus is there. Same with Odegaard. But I think that's the only issue. If we are going to get another centre forward, which I think there is enough smoke to say that we are looking at someone, whether it be Osimhen, whether that be Tony, whether that be someone else that we haven't considered, whether it be Vlahovic, if we revisit that conversation again, they need to be able to do more than just score the goals.
You mean link up play?
They need to be involved in the build-up, need to be involved in facilitating other players. And because if they are going to be just a pure goal scorer, then the onus is going to be on Odegaard and Havertz to pick up the slack, because Havertz, as much as he's been playing better the last few games, and the bar was on the floor, so it really wasn't that hard to be better, it's still not enough. If you're going to have a pure goal-scoring centre forward, he would need to do a lot more. On the flip side, same with Odegaard, he's kind of burned hot and cold a bit this season. So if you're going to get a pure goal scorer, he's going to have to do a lot more facilitating as well. So Jesus does a lot to help our other players, but if we are going to go away from him to someone else or have someone to complement him, it will require other players in our squad to kind of step up in a different way. And that's why the likes of Fabio Vieira being unavailable is a big miss. Smith Rowe being missing for all this time is a massive miss, because he could offer something different. He's a player that very much can speed the tempo up when needed to. Of course, I've not mentioned Thomas Partey, who I'm sick to life of, to be honest. I'm sick of that guy because he's never available. Always posting up. So we're missing there's key pieces that would help make a difference. Like, we're doing really well without them, and you're right, we need more. I would love Jesus to just get that goal scoring touch and just kind of figure it out and go on a run. I'd also love Nketiah to keep pushing him into his goals, because Nketiah's got more goals than him right now this season than him and Trossard, but he doesn't do it enough. When he comes off the bench, he doesn't always score. He looks unlike scoring. When he starts, he gets goals, and he needs to change that, because you're not going to start every week. We need more from him going into it. But I want to end this section talking about the referee. Now, so I came across this very interesting. I don't want to say fact because it's not verified, but allegedly, Jared Gillett had an interview with an Australian magazine or newspaper, and he was talking about coming over to England, watching some games, and really he talks about loving Steven Gerrard and being a Liverpool fan growing up. And I was like, being a Liverpool fan. He didn't specify what time period it was. So I was like, okay, big man. So I want to ask you this, Craig. Now, I don't disagree with the decision that was made in terms of the Havertz equaliser, in that the ball struck his hand. Somewhere in that melee, it brushed his hand. We also saw the ball hit Matty Cash's hand, but somehow, some way, that was not relevant. My issue is this. How can the referee claim to have seen that when none of us saw it from the main angle on the match, and it's only from the replay angle, the other side, where you see the ball hit Havertz's hand? How did he see it in real time and blow?
Didn't. He just guessed. So it's that simple as that. He just guessed. He knew. He kind of knew he had a massive decision to make, and he bottled it. Let's be real. That should have been a penalty to Arsenal. If he's not going to give the goal, he has to give the penalty after Matthew Cash handled the
Or
ball.
just don't blow.
Yeah.
Because my thing is, if he doesn't blow and it goes to VAR decision, VAR can't conclusively say that he's made a clear mistake, because he hasn't made a clear mistake. It's so subjective, like, you know. And when he blew up for the handball, he's given it on what he thought was handball when the ball just bounced between the two of them and it was like knee to chest.
Yeah.
It's the second, it goes knee, chest, Matty Cash's hand, Havertz's hand, foot, goal. But they've forgotten that Matt Cash part.
He's hands first.
And I don't understand how that's been allowed to stand. And it's one of the sad things, because on the one hand, like we've been saying a lot this season with VAR, you want referees to make decisions and do their jobs. But this is one occasion where, even though it's the right outcome, it still feels wrong because of just like, how have you given that? Even though you're right, how you've not seen it. But not only that, that's not even the worst thing. The Diego Carlos elbow of Nketiah, that was only a yellow card, which he didn't see. The VAR said it was a yellow card. How is that not brought up for review? I don't know. I just think it's just very, very, very weird officiating. And what's most disappointing in all of this is that the managers now can't even express themselves anymore without the fear of being fined. I mean, even the fact that Roy Hodgson says that when he retires, he won't even look to come back involved in the game. He won't miss it because of refereeing, which I think is pretty damning. Like, how much work do you think needs to be done to standardise the quality of referees in England, Matthew?
This is something that we've been saying for such a long time before the likes of VAR come in, when we had like things like goal line technology. At the end of the day, it seems like it individually comes down to the person. From the game we had at Liverpool, we didn't want to get his boy in trouble, to this game here when you're having a alleged Liverpool fan officiating a game where it was ironic that, considering that Liverpool are top, should Arsenal lose as well. It's these kind of out of football little incidents that seem to kind of creep their way into the game, and that's what makes it so hard to explain and so hard to solve. It's not like it's a lack of professionalism, it's just boneheaded incompetence on behalf of, like, is it on the referee, or worse still, the FA? What are the FA doing about weaning out these frankly silly little problems that, like, it's just a case you've got to get the referee that, look, just you are professionals at the end of this game, and you represent, a high standard of officiating, and like for everything that they get right, it's one step forward, it's 3 steps back, because it's the right position, but what about this and this? It's kind of like I don't know, it's all fun like this kind of boys club thing where everyone's still getting so many things wrong, but they're not being protected for the sake of, lads sort of thing. And when we talk about the whole sin bin thing, we talk about the whole, things in rugby and time and acquiring things in other sports, but only for other people to go ahead and reject it. So it's just, and some people saying that after they're done, they don't want to be even there anymore. It's a unique problem, but it's quite a big problem, and it just comes. A lot of this comes down to being like a maturity at a level where it's like, these things cost. However you feel about what is going on with the players or whatever, these things are vital, and the world is watching, and all that's happening is that it's taking a battering week after week after week. So I think it's not so much during this season because the season's already started, but definitely over the time of the Euros when a lot of them are away, not necessarily going to the tournament, give them some proper, deep, fine-tooth comb training. Properly, just egg out all the bad eggs and getting ones that are probably a little bit more professional. Go down the level of grassroots if need be. And we don't get to a point where you're missing handballs, but you're booking managers for celebrating.
I was going to say about that, because, I'm very happy for Sheffield United with Chris Wilder's back. They won 1-0 against Brentford. Chris Wilder ran down a touchline a little bit, did a nice little celebration to the fans, love it. But Mikel Arteta got suspended and made to sit in the stands against Everton for a mini celebration at full time against Luton.
Aston Villa.
No, against Luton.
It was Luton.
Aston Villa.
He was made to sit in the stands against Aston Villa for
Everton.
celebration against Luton. Yeah. Okay, fine. But what I don't understand is, why is there For you, Craig, do you feel like because Arteta made his comments about refereeing standards and the way they officiate, do you think he is now being targeted in their decision making?
I agree, he's been targeted. But they always target Arsenal, but the FA don't like Arsenal. Let's be real.
We don't like you either.
FA don't like us.
Nobody does.
FA don't like us. The league, the pundits don't really like us. They're always against us. You have a few of them who back Arsenal, not all of them. You hear them on TalkSport, all these radio, always saying Arsenal this, Arsenal that. So it would be nice for us to win a trophy this season to ram up their throats and keep them quiet. So
I mean, for me, I don't want to see any manager get banned for celebrating a goal. I feel like that's ridiculous. Like the whole point of football is a passion sport. We love it for that reason. Who would have wanted to see Mourinho get banned for the knee slide against Real Madrid? Who would want to see Klopp get banned for the numerous times he ran across the pitch? Who would want to see Guardiola get banned for sticking his tongue out or holding up fingers the other day in the win they had at the weekend? So, we don't want to see that. We don't want to see the passion being taken out of the game. Yes, we want referees to be respected. Yes, we want there to be better quality of conduct between players, referees, and everything we see on the pitch. But don't take the passion out as try and get that. We don't want to see it
How
lost.
sensitive are fans are they can't take another... I guarantee the Luton fans, they don't care. They probably didn't expect to win on that day. But you're telling me that football fans are that sensitive, they can't handle it when a manager does that? Guaranteed. Who are they protecting? Who are they protecting is the thing. Who, by stopping managers from celebrating against these other teams, like, who are they protecting? Who is this for? What's it for?
It's whoever butters their bread and pays their bills. But yeah, as we were talking about that match, Roy Hodgson's thoughts in the Crystal Palace game, they did lose against Liverpool at home. Liverpool, I got to give it to them. They've been quietly going about their business, and they are, last season was clearly a blip. We said it last week, but it's, as the matches go on, they're showing that they've got that resilience to make this count. Obviously, there was major controversy in this game. One being the penalty that was taken away after the foul in the build-up by Will Hughes on Endo. He did go through the back of him. I mean, it looked very, very soft. It reminded me a lot of Ødegaard's foul on on McTominay in the game Arsenal played Man United at Old Trafford a couple of seasons ago. Last season actually, take away the opening goal Martinelli scored. It's very soft. You could argue either way. A foul, give it, not give it. I mean, it took so many replays from VAR, normal speed, slow-mo. I mean, for me, when you have to slow it down that much and speed it up that much to try and see the incident, that's when I'm like, you can't give it as a foul. If you didn't think it was a foul in normal play and you've replayed it that much, it shouldn't take you 2 and a bit minutes to say it's not a foul. Like, you should know in 30 seconds, okay, I've made a mistake. But Liverpool got to do what it needs to do. How impressed are you with Liverpool, Craig, this season? And, come the end, do you think they're going to be in that final kind of conversation to win the league?
They're proving their doubters wrong, because a lot of people doubted them this season because they got rid of their whole free trio of midfielders in the summer. Everyone thought they're going through. Our last season was a transitional period for them. Let's be real. They just didn't perform well at all last season, and they had too much. They had to play catch up towards the end, and they couldn't catch them up in the end. I did back them last season to get top 4. But I think they ran out of games and they didn't win enough games towards the end of the season to get top 4. This season, they've surprised me. They've done very well. They're winning matches silently. They went to St James's Park against Newcastle when they were losing and they were down to 10 men, and they came back and won that game. They came back against Fulham the other day at home when Fulham were like a couple of minutes away from winning the game, and they beat them 4-3. There are games this season where they just go in there and they can just win games. Do I see them challenging this season? It depends if they can keep their whole squad fit. If they have a few injuries and suspensions here and there, they could struggle. Like, Alisson's a big key for them in goal, because the other goalkeeper, when he was in goal the other day, conceded 3 goals against Fulham, and they were very poor goals to concede as well, some of them. So I thought if they can keep Alisson fit and they can keep Van Dijk fit, or Matip is out for the season with a knee injury, and they've got Konate, he's another one as well, if they can keep him fit. And Trent as well, if he can stay on good form. Robertson to come back. I think Robertson's back now. Is he back now? Robertson, did he play?
Came off the bench. Shimikash started, but I think he came off the bench.
When Robertson gets back to full fitness, he'll be all right for them. You've got McCall. The only thing I'm worried about is a centre mid. They haven't got a DM in their centre mid. I think they've got Endo, they've got McAllister playing there. Szoboszlai is a good player. They've got Salah. They've got Cody Gakpo. They've got Jota's injured at the moment. They've got Luis Diaz.
Robertson's not back yet. He didn't play the weekend.
Okay. Luis Diaz, Nunez. I think the only problem with Nunes could be a very good Premier League striker, but he misses too many chances. Too many simple, easy chances where he should have buried them. He misses them. So that's the only thing about, like, he needs to be more clinical in front of goal. He should be near the top scorers right now, the amount of chances he missed already this season.
Who does he remind you of from the past? Who does he remind you of as a striker?
Bentner.
I was thinking Adebayor, Mara and Shamak. Bentner. It's not a name I would have
maybe
said.
maybe you're right about Adebayor comparison. Maybe when Adebayor first came to the Premier League, he was very raw and he missed a lot of chances. But when everything clicked for him, he was scoring goals for fun. That one season when he scored 30 goals, isn't it? And the whole competition, all the different, And then after that, he got that big move to City and didn't really work out for him then. So, I thought Liverpool could be a team that could, if they can continue with their form, they could definitely challenge this season. But all depends on what they do in January, if they buy any players in January, or if they don't get any injuries and suspensions, that will all come key, and they don't get out. Because they're still in the Europa League, so we'll see what Liverpool can do. Yeah.
I guess on like a final note, so you were at the Emirates this weekend, watching Arsenal women beat Chelsea. Bad week for Chelsea, 2 back-to-back defeats across, but fair enough. What was it like? And obviously the women's game has been growing a lot over the last few years, and obviously with Arsenal making a concerted effort to unify both teams, the women's and the men's teams, and of course the plan is to bring the home games to the Emirates full time by next season, but this year they're just trialing it out to see what the appetite is like from fans. But how was it like being there, and what do you think that will look like long term if the women's team are at the Emirates full time?
The place was rocking yesterday. Every time Arsenal scored, it was like a party, like going towards a carnival party. It was just rocking. When Arsenal scored the first goal, all of us were just jumping up and down, celebrating, playing the music, was celebrating, and it was a full house. The stadium was rammed.
Yeah,
it was a lot. It was
60,000
people were coming. When I came to the stadium a bit early. I like coming to the stadium. I don't like coming to the stadium too late. I like coming to the stadium early, sit down, soak up the atmosphere a bit. See them, they're always talking to the pitch guys, talking to the fans and talking to the players and whatever. So when the whole thing started, everyone was just like was shout. They were giving they were bantering Chelsea players. They were having a good little vibe. And every time Arsenal got into the box, started near to score, all of us were standing up to see if they scored, and it was a great atmosphere. So I think women's game is going to grow even more, and I think having that at the Emirates is a good thing. I think it's like all the women's teams should have their games at their home grounds. I think they should eventually all of them should have at their home ground, because I feel that it's more the women's game is more cheaper to go watch matches for women's game, and it's fun as well. Everyone said, "Oh, but it's not the same as the men's game." I had fun watching the game yesterday. I thought it was good fun. Like, I didn't have, like, you know what I mean? Like, obviously football's football in the day. It doesn't matter if it's women or men playing. It's still fun to go and watch your team play and support your team. And I thought that, and especially for people who can't afford to pay the big money for the men's game, is like paying all £80, £100 to watch a men's game, and they can go watch a women's game. You get good value for money, I would say. So I think the women's game is growing, and it only get bigger and better. And eventually, sooner or later, they'll be on par on the men when it comes to salaries and all that in the future. It could get up to that in the future if the trajectory, if more people come and more revenue they make, they get more, you'll soon see £100 million women footballer in the future. Eventually, it could happen. Yeah,
could happen. We'll just have to wait and see how it all pans out. But it's definitely been a good time of growth for them, and we'll see how it goes. I mean, I guess just like for you, Matthew, as like a final kind of point. Obviously, Man City, they managed to pull off a late victory in their game against Luton. Luton Town, who I have to admit have been the last couple of matches they've shown something. Been a bit unfortunate with the results, but they're definitely showing something. How I mean, it's 3 losses on the bounce for them, but like for Man City, how big of a loss is Rodri, and why is it not being talked about more in the general press? And of course, Kevin McAllister, De Bruyne. How big of a loss are those 2 players, and why is it not a major thing?
Because we've been so used to City dominate over these past few years. We're used to them sweeping opponents, like sweeping them away that they were nothing. It's like City wins low every single week. So it's been so almost to the point that's predictable that if City are going to put out X many goals past the team, or if they're going to struggle, they're still going to win. I just think it's almost has come to a point like we're just not used to seeing them being this vulnerable. And those two key players, like you look around a lot of like big clubs in the Premier League anyway, they're always 1-2 players that them not being there makes such a difference. And that in that game there, it was so evident how much they missed Rodri and how much they missed De Bruyne. But they had other guys there who didn't feature or aren't pulling their weight. So them getting this win is almost like a bit of relief. I also think that it goes back to what you said about how Arsenal aren't liked by the media. I think City are very protected. City are very, very protected, and they're given the benefit of the doubt in so many ways, because you can't talk bad about Sir Pep, his pepness, in a way that many people say that he's changed football for the better, the same changing the Premier League and just making it his own. In the world of football and the world of like favoritism and how they look at it, they look at it as some kind of revolution. When he came in, he has revolutionized it. Apart from one season, they've won the Premier League every single time, so they must be doing kind of like something right. But it doesn't mean they're not down for like they're making mistakes like any other team. So why aren't they getting scrutinized? Pochettino's getting it. Arteta will get it every time that they lose. Klopp doesn't get it as bad, then you got someone like Pep who barely gets it. He's always given the benefit of the doubt, and they're very protected the club, they're very protected in with their players. It's gonna take something massive for them to be looked in a different light. They're gonna have to properly drop off the title race at some point. I mean, they're already fairly off at the moment. I mean, it wasn't as bad as last year. They only had one team to worry about. This team potentially got 3. They got Arsenal, Liverpool, and Aston Villa are all above, and even behind the teams that aren't massively far behind. So it's and plus the whole 100 things 15 sanction over their head has seemingly not been talked about for the past few weeks. Where's that gone? Is it even going to happen? I don't know. They're too protected, man. And whenever a team's doing that well, it was almost like when it was Man United. They had that properly fierce figurehead in Alex Ferguson. And when he's there, they're untouchable. Same thing with Pep right now. While he's there, they are untouchable when it comes to protectiveness. But it's like, yeah, they're vulnerable at the moment, and Luton very nearly figured that out. And on Luton, if I were a Luton fan and you played Liverpool, Arsenal, and City in your last 3 home games or whatever, and in 2 of those games you only lost by 1, I'd look at that as something so positive. They're proving a lot tougher than we gave them credit. So when we go there towards near Christmas time, best believe I'm going to be worried.
Yeah, they might actually pull off a big win against a big team.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I think it's definitely been an interesting weekend of results and games. Obviously, the Premier League table as it stands now is Liverpool at the top on 37 points, Arsenal behind them on 36, Villa in third on 35, and Man City in fourth on 33. Tottenham in fifth on 30, and Man United in sixth on 27 points. Newcastle and Brighton are both on 26. Newcastle ahead based on goal difference in seventh. West Ham in ninth on 24 points. Then Fulham in 10th on 21. Brentford, Chelsea, Wolves, and Bournemouth all have 19 points, separated by goal difference. Then we go down to 15th with Crystal Palace on 16 points, Nottingham Forest on 14 points, team of the moment Everton in 17th on 13 points, and below them is Luton Town on 9, Burnley in 19th on 8 points, and Sheffield United also on 8 points, but their goal difference of minus 29 keeps them rooted to the bottom of the table. They have only scored 12 goals this season and conceded 41. So Chris Wilder has a massive job on their hands. I mean, they got a nice 1-0 win against Brentford, so it's the start of something. And Chelsea's next away. So
he likes playing Chelsea too.
So we shall see. And Liverpool's next game is Man United at home. So Anfield, it could be a slaughter, or Ten Hag could do the world a favour and not lose.
Get his first draw of the season.
We're not asking for too much. We're not even asking for a win. Just do the one thing you haven't done all season and draw a game. That's it. At 0-0, stink out the joint. We don't mind. 2-2, have some fight. If you want to win, go on then. But just don't lose. Anyway, we'll be back next week to review that.
That game more Sunday, isn't it?
Yeah. Super Sunday match. It could be a super slaughter. But like I said, at top of the table, it's almost like, it's all rocking all over the place, and it's so exciting to see. At some point, it will all stabilise. And you know what, Man United fans, you might be a bit upset with how things are going, but you're not that far off. You're really not that far. You're not that far off being in Champions League again next season, but you're a long way off being in contention for the title. And as for Chelsea, well, it's a development year, so don't worry about it. And that's us signing out, and we'll see you all next time.
Peace.
Peace.